Every day, there's something moving the market. A headline, a market update, an economic shift, and sometimes a story investors didn't see coming. Hi, I'm Jerry Alfonso from Unicapital Research, and welcome to Unicapital Market Sense, where we bring together insights, perspectives, and conversations that help make sense of the market. We'll talk to analysts, business leaders, and economists about market developments to help you become a more informed investors. Again, this is Unicapital Market Sense, and let's get into it. So today, we'll discuss the most talked about issue right now in the Philippine market, which is the system loss in the power sector. So with me is Mr. Peter Garnace. He's an analyst covering telco, power, mining, and water sector. So hi Peter, welcome to Unicapital Market Sense.
Hey Jerry, thanks for having me.
Okay, so in simple terms, what does system loss really mean?
Right. I know it's been the buzzword recently online, on social media, and also on our GCs, right? So, system loss is the difference between the amount of electricity being generated minus the amount of electricity that actually reaches our homes. There are two types of system losses. So the first one is the technical system loss. Again, it's directed by the law of physics, right? So as electricity travels through the transmission grids through the distribution lines, a part of it is being lost due to resistance. So it turns into heat. So that's the law of physics. We can't do anything about it. So that's unavoidable. But another aspect of it is the non-technical losses. So that's something that that can be avoided eventually, but it's not going to be overnight since it's going to require a lot of capex spending in terms of modernizing the transmission grid, the distribution lines, the transformers. So it's really investing in a better power system in order for us to reduce the non-technical system loss.
The unnatural.
Non-natural.
Okay,
Yeah.
but when we compare ourselves to our peers, gaano kalaki yung system losses ng, let's say, our ASEAN peers compared to the Philippines? Malaki ba? Is it significantly higher or lower?
Right. Maybe we can focus more on the largest distribution utility in the Philippines, like Meralco. So Meralco's system loss way back in 2025, that's around 5.85%. And that's actually that's actually lower than the regulatory cap of the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, which is currently at 6.5%. So Meralco is actually outperforming that cap on system loss.
So mas efficient pala si Meralco.
It's much efficient than the regulatory cap
Compared
of
to the
ERC. And if you
Right.
compare it also to the ASEAN peers, like say for example, Indonesia, Malaysia, they have actually higher system loss, like in the range of 6 to 8%. And also if you compare it to other developed countries, let's say for example in UK, in France, even in Australia and New Zealand, their system losses are actually higher than Philippines, which is around 6 to 8% as well. But I think in some developed countries, let's say for example in Singapore, their system loss is around 2%. So that's actually what we're
Way
trying
lower.
to replicate, right? So I think we have to study how they did it in order for us to bring our system loss to that level as well. But it's not going to take, it won't take overnight for us to be able to reduce system loss to that level.
When it comes to other countries, do you think people in that country actually complains about system losses? Or is it just a big deal here in the Philippines?
Right. I think the difference in terms of the power structure in the Philippines and other countries is that in the Philippines, our electricity bill, for instance, it's unbundled. So you know how much you're paying for the generation, for the distribution, and also for the transmission that's being used in delivering the electricity. So it's already unbundled. So line by line, you can see it. So there's some sort of transparency in our electricity bills. Unlike other countries, they don't see it. because it's usually embedded in the tariffs in their generation rates, which is actually the same system that we used before the IPIRA. Since IPIRA actually is the reason why we are seeing more transparency in our bill.
Right.
So I don't think that other countries complain about system loss, maybe because they don't see it in their electricity bill.
Nakatuck in
Siya sa generation,
Right,
usually sa tariff. They're paying for it also, the same as we are doing in the Philippines. But it's just
they
that
don't know that
they
they're
don't know
paying
they're
for
paying
it.
for it. Right.
But with our, I guess, with our Meralco bill, naka-breakdown kasi lahat.
Yes,
like
correct.
line by line,
Correct.
right?
And if we can take a look at our electricity bill, our Meralco bill, system loss actually contributes around, it accounts around 5% of the whole electricity bill, right? But if you actually take a look at the electricity bill, there are other drivers, there are other segments that's really driving the electricity bill, which is the generation segment. So that accounts around 60% of our electricity bill.
Di ba, Peter, sa water utilities, they also have like a similar stuff going on. Kasi may non-revenue water, yung water companies like Manila Water and Maynilad. So, there are, I guess, infrastructure leakage, may mga illegal connections as well, katulad ng mga jumpers sa Meralco. So, with that, they also have system losses. But who pays for that? Is it the companies or is it the consumers who pay for the system losses when it comes to the water utilities?
Right. The same with the power system, which has system loss. The water utilities also have what they call the non-revenue water. So it's actually the amount of water that's being produced and does not reach our faucets, our homes, but we are still paying for it. It is usually part of the tariffs that's being charged to us by the likes of Maynilad and Manila Water. So what do they do with this tariffs that they charge to us? So when they charge us with this tariffs, so they use it for their capex spending, the likes of investing in new pipes and rehabilitating the new pipes in order for them to modernize and to maybe reduce the leakage. And as you reduce leakage on the pipes, you can also reduce the non-revenue water. So it's actually a form of a form of performance-based rating or a tariff for Manila Water and Maynilad, because as they invest more into these facilities, they can then reduce non-revenue water. So if they're able to successfully do it, so they will again be incentivized to have a better tariff in the next rate rebasing for those water utilities. But in instances that they don't comply or they maybe exceeded the cap on the non-revenue water, they will be penalized as well. So it's really more of like an incentivized program for regulated businesses like Maynilad and Manila Water. The same with the power companies, the distribution utility companies in the Philippines. They are supervised by the regulators. They are well regulated, and they have a cap in terms of those system losses or non-revenue water for water utilities.
So consumers pay for the system losses when it comes to the water sector, right?
Eventually, yes. The non-revenue water.
Kasi parang nakatalk siya sa tariff.
Correct.
Right? So in that sense, Peter, yung structure ba ng water utilities, dapat same ba with the power sector? Like, do you believe na yung consumers should pay for the system losses? Kasi in water companies, we pay for the system losses pala. We pay for the inefficiencies. We pay for the illegal connections. We pay for the leakage in the water sector. So, do you agree na dapat si Meralco, hindi siya yung mag-shoulder ng system losses? It should be the consumers.
Well, again, that's a big question that we are asking right now, right? Everyone's asking about who should pay for those losses, right? The likes of system loss for the power sector, and also maybe non-revenue water for the water sector. So again, I think we have to go back on the structure of the regulated entities or the regulated businesses in the country. So regulated entities in the country perform based on incentives. So if they are incentivized to do what they do, they will perform well. So let's say, for example, if we incentivize the companies like Meralco, the distribution utility, which has a natural monopoly in its franchise area, the tendency is that for that company to perform well, to do everything in its capacity to reduce that system loss in its area, and we have seen that materializing as they have reduced their system loss in the past few years, and
From
it has
before,
been from
right.
before. It has been billions of savings.
Right.
So what they do is that if they were able to earn money, from their business, they reinvest it. They reinvest it to modernize the grids. They modernize the transmission lines, the transformers, for them to be able to again reduce further the system loss. So in other countries, what they do is that system loss can be again tucked into other segments of the power industry. Let's say, for instance, the generation company, but eventually it will be passed on to customers, to the paying customers or end users. So it's gonna be the same thing. So other countries, I think they also subsidize it through their government. So the government would maybe absorb part of the system loss, but again, it will be passed on to customers through higher taxes. So essentially, along the way, someone somewhere has to pay for it, and around the world, it's really the consumers who's paying for it. But I think the key issue is that if we're paying for it, are the companies performing? Are the companies doing everything they can to reduce this system loss and to offer, better quality service? So I think that's a better question to ask. Are they really performing what they have promised to do? So I think that's the question.
So touching on what you said earlier, no, I think a lot of consumers, they don't have any idea when it comes to the system losses from the past, because pre-EPIRA law, I think double digit yung system loss, right? Is it double digit?
Yeah.
So now nag-trim na siya sa 5%.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So that means with the power sector being private, mas naging efficient yung systems.
Correct. I mean, with the investments that they have been, investing in modernizing the transmission lines, the transformers, so it actually reduced the system losses, from the past. As you've said, it's double digit. So the ERC has been lowering the threshold, the regulatory cap for system losses in the past few years, because they have seen that distribution utilities, like let's say, for example, Meralco, has really performed, their duty in terms of reducing the system loss.
But how is it back then ba? Post-EPIRA and pre-EPIRA? Like, can you tell us more about what happened?
Right. Since pre-EPIRA, I think way back 2000. The power system in the country was actually nationalized. So the government really has the monopoly in terms of operating the power system in the country. And what people would usually pay is just the electricity bill. So they don't know what segments or what are the factors that's being tucked into their electricity bill. But post-EPIRA, since again, post-EPIRA, unbundled the power system into the generation system, generation segment, the transmission segment, and the distribution segment. So it actually made the power system, the power sector in the country more transparent. So with that, we can now see in our electricity bill how much are we paying for system losses. But prior to IPIRA, they were just tucked into a single bill back then.
So, Peter, if the Congress amends the IPIRA law and they really scrubbed off the system losses in our monthly bills, should Meralco shareholders get worried if this pushes through?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, should the government really let distribution utilities absorb these system losses? Or what part of the system loss would they let distribution utilities absorb, right? So if, let's say, for example, if they're going to let distribution utilities like Meralco to absorb, how much should they charge, or should they let Meralco absorb in terms of the system loss? So just to give you an idea, Meralco's system loss, or the regulatory cap for system loss charged by or capped by ERC is around 6.5%. So that's 5.5% for the distribution side, and then 1% for the transmission side. So if Meralco is able to outperform the regulatory cap, so they are not paying anything to ERC or to the government. But if the government or the legislator would decide suddenly that they want the system loss of Meralco to be lower, so I think that's the time that Meralco investors would worry, because if legislators would reduce the system loss cap, so then Meralco has to pay any percentage in excess of the cap of ERC. So let's say, for example, based on our calculations, right, based on our estimates, around Meralco's system loss is around 5.85% in 2025. So that's around 28 billion pesos. So let's say, for instance, in a worst case scenario that our legislators would let Meralco absorb that system loss. So that would mean that Meralco would have to pay around 28 billion pesos in system loss. So it's a cost to Meralco. And just to compare with its earnings on the distribution side alone, that's around 96% of its 2025 earnings, which is around 29 billion pesos. So as you can see there, right there, there's a problem with that, because if we let distribution utilities to absorb that cost, we are not incentivizing these utilities to perform well or to outperform, right? So there's nothing that they can use to reinvest, to modernize the grids.
Whole, I guess, sense of why they did the IPIRA law. Anyway,
correct. Yes,
right?
Yes. Well, I think the whole sense of IPIRA really is to protect consumers, at the same time incentivize businesses. So I think in IPIRA law, they have I think privatized the distribution side, but at the same time they are regulating it or putting it under supervision by the government. So it's a regulated monopoly. So they cannot profit excessively from it, since they are being regulated. So the government is really scrutinizing every cost line item that's being charged to customers. So, but again, it's a business. It has to earn, and those earnings are being reinvested to modernize transmission lines.
Yeah, and to make it more efficient.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Right. So with system losses contributing 5% of our total monthly bill, what should we do? Like, what should the Philippines do in order to bring down electricity costs?
Right. So again, I think since part of that 5% or so is part of it is the technical losses. So there's nothing we can do about the technical losses. We can again invest money to it to make the transmission lines efficient. So that's the way we can reduce the technical system loss. But the non-technical system loss, which is actually avoidable if I think LGUs would again enforce or to have powers to prevent or capture those people who parang nagja-jumper or and the like. So I think that's also part of the solution that could reduce the system loss. But overall, in terms of reducing electricity bill, as you've mentioned, the system loss is just 5%.
Right.
I think a portion of it, 10%, 60% is from the generation. So
right.
that's actually the bigger driver. And then, well, the distribution would account for around 15% or so. The same with the transmission line cost. So that would also be roughly around 10 to 15%. But again, the bigger part of the pie is the generation segment. And again, what we need to do, if we really want to reduce the electricity bill in the country, I think we have to focus on increasing capacity, increasing supply. And that's where, the law of supply and demand comes in. So since price is a function of supply and demand, since demand is, as we all know, it's inelastic, it doesn't really move depending on the price. So it will be like constant. So we have to increase the supply. We have to increase the supply to bring down the price.
Right.
So that's essentially, I think, a major solution or a major effort that our congressmen, our legislators, and also our businessmen, our investors need to do.
So we need more power plants, basically.
Yes, we need more capacities. We need we need cheaper sources of electricity, like the renewable energy. So I think that's part of the plan of the government. I think it's just more on the execution side of the plan or of the program.
So amongst the sources of energy, would you say we should invest more to solar, to hydro, to geothermal, or to coal, or whatnot?
Yeah.
For you, what should we be focusing on?
Well, I think it should be a mix of or a combination of those technologies. Well, solar has its own benefit. Sun is free. Also for windmills, wind is free. But it also has some cost. Let's say, for example, for solar plants, it's also a question of, or there's like a dilemma in terms of energy security and also food security. Right. So you have to also balance it out.
And
so
I think their capacity factor is actually much lower compared to other sources, right?
Correct. I mean, since sun, is just around 12 hours a day, so you can't really produce energy 24/7
Right.
With solar alone, right? So you need other technologies. Let's say, for example, wind, also hydro, geothermal is also a good technology since it can operate 24/7.
So now let's touch on El Nino.
Right.
Like, what are the implications of El Nino to the power sector?
Right. I think for me, El Nino is actually a double-edged sword for the power sector. Well, for one, for the distribution segment, for instance, since El Nino would usually require people for more, cooling, air condition, so it will actually increase the energy sales of the likes of Meralco in other electricity or electric co-ops. So that would increase demand in terms of electricity consumption. So it will drive revenues and also earnings for the DU segment. But for the GenCos, at least for, let's say for instance, for the hydro power plants, so usually El Nino episode would result into lower water reservoir in the dams. So that would also mean that lesser electricity generation from these hydro power plants. So some companies with hydro power plants would experience, lesser electricity being generated from it. But another result or another result of El Nino is that since usually it will increase demand, again, it will increase demand or electricity consumption, it
Right.
will narrow the gap between the supply and demand situation. And during those situations, let's say, for example, during summer season, prices would go up. So again, that's an opportunity for generation companies with spot exposure. But again,
bad
that's bad for consumers.
right.
So again, that's again another cycle of El Nino.
Right. Since you touched the water sector, you touched the Angat Dam. What about for the water companies? What would be the implications of El Nino when it comes to water companies like Maynilad and Manila Water?
Right. I guess for the water sector, what we have observed in the past is that during El Nino episode, well, again, the dams, the water inflow in the reservoir would be reduced. Let's say, for example, I think 2 weeks ago, Angat Dam reached its lowest level, around 150 meters. So that's historic level already.
Record low.
Wow. In the past, if the Angat Dam reaches that level, Maynilad and Manila Water would announce, water interruption, maybe rotational water interruption and distribution, right? But I think it's different now. We haven't seen the same magnitude of water interruption. The key difference is that, well, El Nino has returned, but the sector has changed. It has already evolved. In the past, since we have experienced severe El Nino, let's say for example in 2010 and in 2019, where the Angat Dam has reached the critical level, Maynilad and Manila Water has really invested in getting additional water supply. For instance, for Manila Water, it has invested in the Wawa Dam. So that's another major source of water for the East Zone concession. Meanwhile, for Maynilad also, they have invested in water treatment plants. So they have a lot of water treatment plants right now. So that can support, the demand of consumers despite El Nino, which would usually drive demand for water.
Right. Okay. So to wrap things up, what are your top picks in the water and power sector?
Well, yeah, I think first for the power sector, since we've been talking about the power sector earlier. So for the power sector, our topic is Aboitiz Power. Well, number one, we do think that it is the best proxy towards energy security in the country. Number two, it has a well-diversified portfolio of technology. And number three, it has good dividend yields. And if I may add, number four would be the anticipation of Aboitiz Power to be included in the PSEI rebalancing February next year. And then for the water sector, our pick is Manila Water. Well, number one, because of its well-diversified sources of water, it has already lessened its dependence on Angat Dam. And then number two, it's currently very attractive compared to Maynilad. In terms of its PE ratio, it's significantly discounted compared to Maynilad. And number three, it has good dividend yields already. So compared to Maynilad, Manila Water's dividend yield right now is better compared to its closest peer.
So that's it for our first episode in Unicapital Market Sense. If you enjoyed our discussion today, Let us know in the comments below which topics you want us to cover next.